So let me ask you a simple question. How many decisions do you think you make in a day? 10, 100? Let's try 35,000. That's right, my friend. Researchers estimated that an average adult makes over 35,000 decisions every single day. From the basic to basic stuff like what should I eat for the breakfast, to the major life choices like should I switch careers from my boring desk job to becoming a full time YouTuber. But here's the kicker, my friend. Making so many decisions isn't just as mentally exhausting, but it is also biologically exhausting. You have probably you have probably noticed this yourself. Maybe you spent an entire day arguing with yourself about some sort of thing. Like maybe you're overthinking about some project. Maybe you're arguing with some friend about something, and by the end of that argument, by the end of that overthinking, by the end of the day, you are so tired, you are so drained that you just avoid making any decisions at all. You'll just avoid any kind of cognitive work at all. This phenomena is called as decision fatigue. It happens when our brain are given like too much decision making because our brain aren't designed to handle the endless decision making. So at the core of every choice you make, there are two key players that are battling for the control, and they are the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala. So who are they? The prefrontal cortex. This is the logical part of your brain responsible for reasoning, which weighs the pros and cons of every single thing that you do. Say, for example, that I want to drink coffee. What are the pros of it? What are the advantages that you get? What are the disadvantages of coffee? And all the long-term planning comes from your prefrontal cortex. So wouldn't be wrong if we call it the rational CEO of our brain. Then the other thing that we have is amygdala, which is the emotional powerhouse designed for fast, instinctive reactions. This is the part of your brain which makes you crave the ice cream instead of the salad. It makes you hit the snooze button instead of waking up and working out. It is like the feel good stuff. Like it makes you feel good. It's the mommy part of your brain, and prefrontal cortex is the dad part of your brain. So every decision you make is like a tug of war between these two parts of your brain. And then you throw a little bit of dopamine, the neurotransmitter that drives your brain's reward system. So now we have a recipe of decision making chaos. So now, to understand why decision feels so complex, let's break down the biological process behind them. So every decision starts from your prefrontal cortex. This part of your brain is responsible for executive function. It collects information, analyzes it, and projects the potential outcome that you will have. Say, for example, that if you are deciding to whether watch Netflix or work on this project, your prefrontal cortex will calculate how much progress will I make if I work on this project versus how much relaxation will I get if I watch Netflix, maybe a series on Netflix, maybe Wednesday or something like that. Next, the amygdala kicks in, adding an emotional layer to the equation. Maybe you are tired and frustrated, which makes Netflix more appealing. This is where the dopamine comes in and says that okay, Netflix right now feels more rewarding. So the dopamine, as the feel-good chemical, chooses the immediate gratification. And this cycle explains why the short-term rewards often feel more beneficial than the long-term benefits. This is why you choose to scroll Instagram instead of working on this project. This is the reason why you choose to do the things that you do. The amygdala pushes for the easy option, while the prefrontal cortex struggles to stay logical. And I'm not saying this on thin air. The research published in Journal of Neuroscience found that people are more likely to choose immediate rewards when their amygdala activity is high, even if logical reasoning suggests otherwise. So why does this matter? So you need to, in order to understand the interplay between logic, emotion, and reward-seeking behavior, gives you the power of influence over your own decision. So you have to understand all of these three behaviors. This is how you get the power of a behavior. But before you get the power of a behavior, let's understand the common decision-making traps. Unfortunately, our brain aren't perfect decision-making machine. In fact, we are wired with cognitive biases that often leads us astray. So let's explore three most common traps that makes the decision-making so overwhelming. So the first one, analysis paralysis. So, have you ever felt so overwhelmed by the options that you have for anything that you do that you couldn't make a decision at all? That you are sitting here, you have a free time, and now you are wondering that should I journal, should I read a book, should I do some productive work, should I go out, should I just call one of my friends, or should I scroll Instagram? There are so many options that you just sit there and waste 3 hours, 4 hours just thinking what to do, and once you make a decision, it's too late. You are done with it. Now you have to go out, you have the college, you have to sleep. It's all done. And it happens because your prefrontal cortex gets overloaded when faced with too much information. It simply shuts down. It's very similar to imagine scrolling through 10 different streaming screens, and then you have to pick one movie. You have 10 screens in front of you. You have to pick one movie. So instead of choosing, you waste an hour debating and end up watching nothing. You wasted 3 hours, you end up watching nothing because you were too busy with all of the information in front of you. This is called as the analysis paralysis. And the second thing is instant gratification. This bias comes from your brain's obsession with short-term rewards. Your amygdala favors immediate pleasure over long-term gains. This is why it's easier to binge watch a show than to prepare a presentation. The Stanford University study shows that people who prioritize long-term goals, those who resist instant gratification, are 40% more likely to achieve success in their lives. Then the third thing is confirmation bias. We all love being right. That's why we tend to seek out information that supports our existing belief, even when it's wrong. This bias clouds your judgment and prevents you from making objective decisions. So let's say you're convinced a specific investment is great, right? You're convinced that this particular investment towards this thing, or maybe your cells, or maybe on any stocks or anything, is a great investment. You're likely to ignore any kind of warning signs and only focus on evidence that reinforces your belief. Say, for example, that you did this particular thing and now you think that, okay, I made the right choice. If I do this, then this is the right choice. So you'll just ignore all the things that says that, okay, this is not right. And you'll just focus on the things that say, okay, this is the right thing to do. Say, for example, you made a decision to scroll Instagram. So you're likely to avoid all of the people who are telling you Instagram is a bad thing, and you just focus on the people who say that, okay, 10 minutes of wind down with Instagram is really good. This is how it works. This is confirmation bias. So now that you've understood all of these traps, how do you avoid them? How to make smarter choices? The answer lies in applying a simple science-backed framework, and these are the 3 powerful strategies. The first one, 10-10-10 rule. This framework, developed by author Susie Legg, involves asking yourself 3 questions, 3 simple questions. How will I feel about this decision in 10 minutes? How will I feel about in 10 months? How will I feel in 10 years? Say, for example, that I want to scroll Instagram instead of working. So how will I feel about if I don't work on my project right now and I'll just scroll Instagram? How will I feel about this work in 10 months? How will I feel about it in 10 years? Say, for example, that you wasted 10 months and just scroll Instagram instead of working on this project and completing it. So will you be proud that you continued to scroll Instagram, you continue to waste your time instead of working on something that could have been really successful right now and you would have been making money? Think about it. You'll feel really bad, right? In 10 years, you'll probably regret it. You'll hate yourself for that. So you're not more likely to do that. This shifts your emotional short-term thinking to a broader long-term perspective. So this is how it works. In order to be more productive, in order to take your mind from the amygdala to your prefrontal cortex, this is the right thing to do. Next, we have Eisenhower matrix. So this tool categorizes your task into 4 different quadrants. You can just go into Google and get find the exact Eisenhower matrix. The first one, urgent and important, important but not urgent, urgent but not important, and then neither. These are the 4 parts. So all you have to do is focus on important but not urgent. This is where you prioritize your long-term goals. And studies show that 80% of successful people spend most of their time in these quadrants. Avoiding distractions that fall into urgent but not important trap. So all you have to do is just prioritize your long-term goals. Then the third thing is limit your choices. Psychologists recommend following the rule of three. Never compare more than three options at once. Even when you go into the world of productivity, there is a saying that you need to just prioritize three goals for the day. Why? Because your brain is just designed in some way that it cannot go with a lot of options throughout the day. You cannot prioritize more things, you cannot choose from a lot of different things. So all you have to do is, when you are having options about doing something or making some sort of decision, you just have three or maybe less options about that. This reduces your analysis paralysis and speeds up your decision making process. So let's bring all of this theoreticals into life with a relatable example. Let's say a year ago, Jack torn between two different career paths. One offered stability but little growth, while the other was risky but exciting. So he used the 10-10-10 rule, and he asked himself, in 10 months, he'd probably feel anxious about leaving his comfort zone. In 10 months, he'd feel energized about the opportunities and the new path offered. In 10 years, he'd likely regret not taking the risk. So the clarity helped him make the leap. The next, he used the Eisenhower matrix to tackle his immediate task by updating his resume and networking more, and set the long-term goals for his new career. So the result was, within 6 months, he was thriving in his new role. So this framework makes the decision making less overwhelming with a structured process. Use the 10-10-10 rule and decide what to do, and then use the Eisenhower matrix to structure the entire process. This is how you avoid all of those traps of decision making. Decision making does not have to be overwhelming. By understanding how your brain works, spotting common traps, and applying frameworks like 10-10-10 rule, you can take control of your choices. So start small, apply one of these strategies to a decision you're facing today, whether it's personal, professional, whatever that happens to be. Over time, these changes compound, leading to a better outcome and more confident version of yourself.